You're watching Galaxy. Today, coming to you from Galaxy Television. It's a Monday. My name is Justin Akadoni.
Hello and good morning. My name is Joseph Eko. It's such a delight to have you join us. Today, we'll be discussing something that affects virtually every Nigerian, directly or indirectly. It's been a while now where we've been talking about the upward review of the minimum wage. But this issue doesn't seem to be going away soon. This minute it seems we're making progress, the next minute it seems there's a setback. Today we'll be discussing that on the show, the implications of the proposed strike and issues around that as it affects laborers and Nigerian workers generally.
Yes, and of course we have a representative of labor here and of course in Oyo State and an analyst in Abuja who will be looking at this issue critically or in the bid to proffering solutions to it because it actually affects every one of us. All right, the federal government has urged the organized labor to accept the new minimum wage proposal considering the capacity and ability of the government and the private sector to pay. Minister of Labor and Employment Senator Chris Ngige made a call when he received the new Director General of the Nigerian Employers Consultative Association, NECA, Timothy Olale, on a visit to his office on Friday. Ngige had a few days ago, while labor leaders were threatening to call out workers for full strike over the minimum wage issue, announced that the federal government had offered 24,000 naira to workers. But the workers' leaders countered, saying that 30,000 naira was the amount agreed on by the committee saddled with their responsibility. We're looking at all of that. Let's take the soundbite from the Minister of Employment and, of course, from the representative of the Nigerian Governors Forum, saying that they're not really opposed to paying that, but it's just the capacity to paying the minimum wage that is the issue. Let us take those sound bites back to back and we'll come back and talk some more. To join us again.
And even discussing with the governors present. So that first offer was a government offer for federal government of Nigeria, state governments and local governments combined. So it was a government as employer offer. In the negotiations, as it continued, the federal government of Nigeria shifted grounds on their own offer and offered 24,000. This offer of the federal government of Nigeria does not include the state and local governments. It's good we clear this. It does not include states and local government who refuse to shift from their position of 20,700 initial offer. Employers Association, organized private sector, less the small and medium scale industries, employers under the canopy of NECA, Nigerian Employers Consultative Assembly, and Manufacturers Association of Nigeria and NASIMA moved their offer before from 25, their earlier offer, to 30, to meet with the unions, the organized unions, and said, we now bring our offer to 30 from 25. But you have others who have remained in their different positions. And it was at this juncture that a member of the organized unions said that they have to move a motion on their 30,000. And they moved the motion and supported their motion and said that it's binding on everybody. That is not tripartite negotiation. The tripartite negotiation, especially on wage fixing, of which the national minimum wage fixing is part of, says that it will be by mutual agreement. That is the ILO operative word, mutual agreement. And in the presidential speech inaugurating the committee, he told the line of the ILO and said the figure should be consensual. That means arrived at by consensus. That is what is in the president's speech. If you like, you go and rewind it. So we are still in tandem with international best practices in this negotiation. There is no room for voting. And there is no room for motion moving and motion supporting in collective bargaining on wage fixing. So we don't want labor to feel that there is a war. There is no war. The workers are our own. And the workers are all over Nigeria, both private and public sector. And that brings me to the question asked by the former person. Yes, the public sector organizations say they can pay 30,000. How many of them are paying 18,000 today? Petrol attendants in the filling stations are working for organized private sector. How many of them are earning 18,000, the attendants? How many security men in industries are earning 18,000? These are the issues. So that brings you into the ability to pay. You don't make a law, because this will go to National Assembly and distilled into a national law in consonance with item 34 of the exclusive legislative list. And that law will bind everybody, including some of you who have drivers and those who have nannies. So I want to make it clear so you understand it.
Well, take note of the
For those of you in the public service, by the time the 24,000 is agreed upon, you will do what is called a sliding scale extrapolation upwards into level 17. So everybody will move. And at the end of the day, you will discover that the lowest paid public servant in federal service will go home with nothing less than about 35 to 40,000. So it's good this point is made so that you know that the minimum wage, national minimum wage, is not the same with a take-home pay of any worker. There are other additives that go on top of the national minimum wage for the public servant, especially in the public sector. Thank you.
And total discussion, we made it very clear that we're not against any overall review of salary. We're not in tandem with the NLC to get minimum wage reviewed of what, but the problem of state is capacity to pay what is agreed. As we're talking today, we are struggling with the 18,000. Some of the states are being paid 35% up, or some of them share 50%, and some of them up to, I just lost my second point, saying there are some states they have salary arrears. So now, if we say, okay, we are going to do the minimum wage, we are going to review it up, then it's not about only reviewing, about how we are going to get the resources to cater for that.
Welcome back. Abdulaziz Yari there, the Nigerian Governors Forum chairman. And before that, we had the Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, talking about minimum wage and issues around it. Now we're bringing the discussion back to the studio as we're being joined by Mr. Chris Onyeka, who is the Assistant Secretary of ULC. Welcome to the program.
The pleasure is mine. Thank you for having me.
All right, let me begin by asking, there are lots of figures being proposed. The federal government has its own figure. Federal government is saying 24,000 naira. The governor said they can only pay 20,000 naira. Organized labor is saying 25, and labor is saying 30,000 naira. Based on the economic realities of Nigeria, which of these amounts do you feel will be suitable for Nigerian workers?
Thank you. Let me correct this one again. Once again, I'm the Deputy General Secretary of United Labour Congress of Nigeria, ULC. The issue of the minimum wage is something that has become vexatious to every labor leader and every activist, every stakeholder of the trade union movement in Nigeria. It's a pity that we came to this impasse because of the insensitivity and the irresponsibility of some people in government. The fact is that the organized labor in Nigeria made a demand for 65,000 naira. That was what we put on the table at the beginning. And then it was a demand. And then the federal government, remember, never made any offer until we had to go on strike. Okay, and it was the strike that brought them back and compelled them to come up with an offer. Now, when they came up with an offer, scenarios were created out of the different offers, both the ones. Remember that the state government is also part, 6 of them were part of this negotiation. Doesn't have anything to do with governance forum. They were properly represented in the tripartite committee on the part of government. And so, the scenarios were created and it was looked at. Eventually, all the scenarios eventually came to around 37,000 naira. And the organized labor, maintained 37,000 naira per month as the basic. And the organized private sector intervened and kept on pleading with us, with organized labor, and asked us to please accept, remember, to please accept 30,000 naira as the basic, as the national minimum wage. And our representatives in the tripartite committee, after consulting with the leadership outside, decided to accept, to reach a compromise in order to break the deadlock. Said, okay, since you people are asking us for this, okay, let's accept 30,000 naira. It was on the strength of that, okay, that the agreement was reached, both with the minister and all the parties in that negotiation process. And then the minister, the document had already been prepared, and some people had signed that agreement. People had signed the agreement, only for there to be okay, let us do it in a ceremony when the other parts of the documents are assembled, because what was assembled initially was the signature page, okay, and some people signed off. And said, okay, others who decide the organized labor will come back and sign. And the minister left that particular discussion and said he was going to inform his principals on the decision that has been reached by the tripartite committee, only for him to go on air and begin to say a different thing. We do not understand why Nigerians should be led by deceit and propaganda and dishonesty. That tells you how government is run in Nigeria.
So if I got you correctly, what you're saying right now is that the federal government was part of the agreement. At the end of the day, they went back, they reneged on their own agreement.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So right now, so is it an issue of just the willpower or not wanting to pay it at all?
I think that
your opinion?
The federal government, through the Minister of Labour, Ngige, is trying to create an impasse, a confusion, so as to cause a stalemate that will neither go forward nor backwards, so that this thing will continue delaying. You know, when there is an impasse, okay, the victim suffers more than the oppressor, and so it pays the oppressor to create an impasse. That is what is happening in this case.
So why would they want to delay in the first place? I mean, this issue has been on since 2015.
Yeah.
What do they stand to gain? One would have thought that, okay, maybe this will even be the opportunity for them to, you know, buy the hearts of Nigerians, so to speak, because the elections are just around the corner. So why the delay? Why the back and forth?
You can see clearly that the politicians are not interested in buying the hearts of Nigerians, because your vote may not count. I'm saying your vote may not count. So they are not interested in doing things that would make Nigerians to be happy. You could see the trend. We're not talking of only this government, but past government, that's what they do. Nigerians do not count. The welfare of Nigerians do not count. What counts is only their pocket, their own interest, the interest of the politicians. Now you ask, why do they want to delay? Like I have said, the longer or the more, you know, this impasse lasts, okay? Somebody, what would have been paid to workers will be paid to them, and somebody benefits from that. Who is going to benefit from that? The government and those who are supposed to pay. If we sign off today and minimum wage becomes a reality before the end of the month, then by next month we should be earning the new pay. But if the impasse continues, it means that we'll earn it by next month or next 2 months. Then somebody that should pay it is doing what? benefiting.
Okay, but in all of this right now, you saw the soundbite, Abdulaziz Yari saying that they are not opposed to minimum wage. You just said they were part of the negotiated tripartite agreement and everything. But right now, their own reality, according to him, is that they don't have the capacity to pay. What do you think about his statement?
I have said and said time without number that it is not a question of capacity. It's a question of willingness to pay. We have demonstrated in time without number that you went to federal government, you received Paris reform.
Yes.
Okay? For the purposes of paying salaries. What did you do with it? You didn't pay. So it means if you reduce minimum wage today to 1,000 naira per Nigerian worker, they won't pay. They will be owing Nigerian workers.
But why would they just want to?
They do this because they think that salary is charity. They think that the wages of workers is in Nigeria that when people pay worker salary, they tell us and want to clap for them for paying worker salary. Worker salary is not $1. It's not charity. This is for work done, for services rendered. These are the people that create wealth. You say that labor creates wealth, and you know they are the people that created the same wealth. And then it's like taking a dog to hunt. And when they meet, the dog has helped you to capture the animal, and you bring it back home, you chase away the dog. That is what is happening. We are the ones creating wealth, and when it comes to the time that we're going to distribute, allocate this wealth, you want to chase out workers. You want to begin to feel that they were not part of it. You see the money generated as yours. That is unfortunate. It's only in this country that things like that happen.
Comrade, it appears to me that some Nigerians are not, entirely on the side of labor. We've had this debate before, in the studio, and we've interviewed some people, and they say that labor, they are pursuing what they shouldn't even be pursuing in the first place, minimum wage, when there are other issues to even be attended to. How would you react to this?
Anybody that is saying it is out of ignorance. We have a primary constituency and a secondary constituency. The primary constituency is the worker, his take-home pay, his benefits, his privileges, his rights. That is our primary duty. Our secondary duty is the others. Though the others also impact indirectly on these other things that belong to the worker. We do all this, okay? What is our primary responsibility is to ensure that the workers take home on weekly or monthly basis would actually take him home, would actually take care of his basic needs. Okay, we make sure that the worker is not treated unfairly in his place of work. Now, what are those other issues they are talking about? But let me also correct an impression first. Nigerians are totally, in fact, 99% of Nigerians are in total support of what the Nigerian labor movement, is doing in this country.
They may be in support,
because
when it comes to strike that affects or cripples other parts of the economy, Nigerians might not entirely be on your side, because labor is also threatening to strike. They're threatening to do a protest and strike. And remember the last time we had a strike, how it affected different parts of the economy. Yeah. So if that is what you want to do to ensure that this problem is addressed, I can tell you that some Nigerians are definitely not going to be on your side.
Yeah, definitely. Out of every 12, there's always a Judas, and that is acceptable. There will be people that will not be happy. But the fact is that there's a price to pay, and it's government that is forcing it. Remember who is doing that. It's not Nigerian workers that are forcing these difficulties on Nigerians. It is the federal government's refusal to do the right thing. Because when they say, we are not going to pay, you are not entitled to this minimum wage, they are telling you that you are worthless, that your service is not important. And so when we withdraw our service, okay, and then it begins to affect the economy, then it means that our service is important in the first place. Somebody has to pay for our services. When we work, we are supposed to be able to take care of our health. We're supposed to be able to at least put a decent roof over our head. We're supposed to at least be able to put food in our mouth and put food on the table for our children. We're supposed to wear decent clothes, and we're supposed to also enter transport. What are we going to be able to use to provide those things? It's our salary, nothing else. And that is what we're asking the federal government to do. In other societies, issue of minimum wage are automatic. In other societies, the minimum wage is leveraged against inflation. When inflation goes to probably above 2%, the minimum wage adjusts. But it's only in Nigeria that you have to sit down and negotiate it, and then people create a whole lot of political bottleneck around it to ensure that the worker does not benefit from the collective wealth that we have created as a nation. That's unfortunate.
All right, we'll still come back to you now. Let us join our studios Abuja, we have Frank TAT, Executive Director of KSA, joining us this morning to also look at the same issue of minimum wage. Good morning to you, Barrister TAT. I don't know if you've been following the conversation so far, but in all of this, I really want to hear your candid view concerning the stand of the federal government, what Labour is asking for, and of course the capacity as being put forward by the state government, which is an issue for them for not paid. All right, I think we're still trying to get signals. All right, thanks for joining us once again, Dr. Barrister TAT. Let me repeat the question. What is your opinion concerning this stalemate, as it were, the stand of the federal government, of the labor, organized labor, and of course, the governors talking about capacity to pay? In your opinion, what are the issues and what should we be saying right now?
Of course, I can hear you. Maybe you ask me the question again. I didn't quite get the question correctly.
I just wanted to get your candid opinion concerning this stalemate. Now, the federal government staying on 24,000 naira, Labour insisting on 30, and the state governments are saying that they don't have the capacity to pay. Who is and what should we be doing as workers?
Well, the issue of payment of minimum wage, I'm happy that the Labour and the government ultimately went back to the discussion table, and the rule in terms of negotiation should be agreement and not resorting to the to any form of application of subtle force, which Labour usually does when it wields its powers of strike to coerce the government to doing what it wants. I think that if the government says that it doesn't have the capacity to pay a particular minimum wage, the Labour should actually be considerate. There is no point the government agreeing to a particular amount and then failing to carry it out. That is not good. Now, as insignificant and highly insidious that the 18,000 naira being minimum wage was, the government, many governments across the state, I'm referring to state governments across the country, could not pay. So I think that Labour and the government should arrive at a very realistic amount of money that is to be paid. I would have also expected Labour to have done its calculation and gathering its indices to be able to confront the government by compelling the government by sheer facts and figures to agreeing to pay that particular amount that they are clamoring for at this moment.
When it comes to the governors saying they can't pay, how come it's only when it comes to workers they complain, but when it comes to funds entitled to them, when it comes to, even their salaries, the personal salaries of the governors, they don't complain. But if it's workers, they complain. So how valid is that argument that they actually can't pay workers?
Well, you don't have to. I mean, let's take the arguments and take the issues in clear perspective. Politicians are different from, they are all public servants, whether they are politicians, members of the armed forces, members of the police, or local government workers, or state government workers, or federal government workers at the federal secretariat. They all belong to the public service. But there is a clear distinction. There are various distinctions in the public service. The political appointees, political office holders in terms of governors and members of state houses of assembly and national assembly and political assistants, special assistants, they belong to a different class. Those are persons who have captured power for the purpose of authoritatively allocating resources to themselves. So they are actually up and against the people. It is the people that should question the humongous and the kind of salaries that they earn that is annoying. But for the worker, it's a different matter. It's a contract. The worker is offered, in fact, he applies to work, or sometimes is offered opportunities to work, and then he's given certain conditions. He has agreed, no matter how terrible those conditions have been, so long as, no matter how terrible the conditions he considers them to be, so long as they conform to the labor laws, and then he has agreed to the contract of employment. He has taken part in the negotiation process, and is now a worker, and the government is an employer. Ideally, the worker is not supposed to complain, but we see that the law also makes provision for to unionize, for trade unions to be formed, for amalgamation of trade unions to form federations like NUC and Trade Union Congress. Now, they exist not for the people. Now, let's get that clear. Trade Union Congress and the NLC do not exist for the ordinary people. They exist for themselves, for their own welfare, to improve the welfare of their own workers. They don't really care what happens to the Nigerian people, just as the same way the political class, the political office holder, really does not care about the Nigerian people. So let's get that clear.
So just one more question before we get reaction from analysts in the studio. You know, this minimum wage issue, some people say no matter how much you increase the pay, it's still not going to make any significant difference based on the economic realities we have around. So even if it's 100,000 naira per worker, how much impact would it even make?
Well, it will make a lot of impact in terms of increasing the rate of inflation. Because by the time you put more money in the hands of workers who are not productive, because if you look at the Nigerian economy and you look at the Nigerian government and the Nigerian state of affairs, you will see that at the risk of generalization, most of the persons who populate the Nigerian working class are not productive people. They just they go to work, they go through the motions, earn salaries, go back home, without significantly contributing anything as a matter of increase or improvement to the Nigerian situation. So if you look at the Nigerian debacle, for example, now you ask yourself, who are those saddled with the responsibility of governance? The civil service at the federal level and at the state level. Look at the level of comatose in which our system is. Our infrastructure, our institutions. These are the reflections of the unproductive nature of the Nigerian working class, and they are talking about any more money. So you give more money to people who have not produced for fewer goods. Elementary economics tells me that there will be an unusual inflation, and somehow the government may not be saying the truth that it is acting on economic intelligence as the reason why it is refusing to pay a certain minimum wage. It will make a lot of difference, perhaps more in the negative.
Thank you so much. We've been speaking with Barrister Frank Tietie. He is the Executive Director of CASA. He joined us from Abuja to look at all the salient issues concerning the minimum wage and, of course, the role of labor, the NLC, the TUC, the ULC in all of this. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll now get reactions now from Chris Onyeka of the ULC.
I'm specifically interested in the part where he says that labor unions are selfish.
I don't want to be, usually I don't get angry. But the fact is that when there is manifest ignorance, you sometimes try to correct it. One is that my brother there did not listen to what I said. If he had listened, I'm sure that he would have understood that we said there was an agreement. And somebody said he was going to inform his principals of the agreement. Okay, and went out and came and went on air to begin to say a different thing. There was an agreement, and Labour was not trying to coerce anybody to reach a figure. Like we have said in the press release that we sent out yesterday, we are no longer going to negotiate with the federal government on the basis of a figure, because we have a figure that has been agreed upon. And so there is no question of coercion. The 30,000 naira that was reached was a compromise. That's a different thing. We were forced against our best judgment to accept it, but just for the purposes of breaking the impasse, to ensure that we make progress. Now that is on that. And two, going back to what he alluded to, I was trying, when I was making my intervention, I said that the trade union movement is a social movement. The trade union movement has two constituencies. The one I call the primary constituency and the secondary constituency. The secondary constituency is the one, the primary constituency is the one that gives us what we call organic solidarity. The secondary constituency is the one that gives us the wide and inclusive solidarity. And the primary constituency is the workers and what concerns them. The secondary constituency are the masses, the ones that cannot speak for themselves, the market women, the students, the carpenters, the butchers. Those are the people that the community organizations, faith-based organizations, those are the ones that work with us. Those are the ones that we call our secondary constituency, the ones that we reach out at all times to also protect, to also articulate their interests and project their interests at all times. And so our ability as a trade union movement to mobilize these two tendencies, these two solidarities, is what has given us the power that those that are in government are afraid of. That is one thing. And so the labor movement, the trade union movement, has always been the champion of the Nigerian people, Nigerian masses all over the world. The trade union movement has always intervened in things that concerns the masses out there, because who are the masses? We are the masses. The workers are the masses. You cannot divorce an average worker from the masses. We are the ones that live at the very grassroots. We are the ones that live in the bachas. We are the ones that live in the ghettos. We are the ones that live in the ordinary places. And so the way the masses feel is the same way we feel. We are the masses. You cannot separate us from the masses. We are the same thing as the masses that he was trying to talk about. That is one thing. And when we talk about increase in national minimum wage, some people talk about inflation. That is also a mark of ignorance.
Okay.
When you increase minimum wage, the people, Nigerian workers are the ones that shop around. They are the ones that buy made in Nigerian goods. They are the ones that stimulates the economy. They are the ones that tells Nigerian manufacturers. He tells the shoemaker, the one that makes dress, to make dress. They are the ones that actually stimulate industrial production in Nigeria, not the ones that go. And it's unfortunate that a learned person would talk about workers not challenging the humongous pay that these people are taking home. Remember, there is a contradiction in Nigeria. Nigeria has the lowest paid workers in the whole world. When you look at the comparative analysis, you find out that Nigerian workers are the lowest paid in Africa. In fact, in the whole world, the issue of minimum wage. But we have public officers that are the highest paid in the whole world.
All right, Chris,
that is a basic contradiction.
We'll come back to you now. We're getting further signals. We have to go to Oyo State. We're being joined by the chairman of Trade Union Congress, Oyo State Chapter, Comrade Olushola Ogudiro. Many thanks for joining us on Galaxy today. In the wake of all the talks of the minimum wage between federal government, labor, and of course, the organized private sector, a lot of concerns have been raised. But I just want to get your opinion concerning one of the issues that came out from the Federal Executive Council meeting, which is the federal government says it will soon start putting the rule of no work, no pay. How did that development reach you? Or is this something that we should be talking about right now when we've not been able to sort out the issue of minimum wage?
Nigerians, in fact, you have just said it all in your intro. Should we be talking of no work, no pay now? Anyway, as labor leaders, we are not so much concerned because the no work, no pay clause has been in the Trade Union Act and the Trade Dispute Act for so long. It's only the way they now want to actually institute it. Anyway, as far as we are concerned, there is the need, or there should be the need when the clause is to be invoked. If labor do not follow the laid-down procedures before cessation of work, then the employer may decide to invoke the no work, no pay clause. But what will lead to that? We are confident that as Nigerian labor leaders, we have always been doing the needful. We'll give enough notice. Even if there is any need, we suspend the strike. The government should know, those who advise them, they should know better than what they are doing. Coercion, trying to sabotage this negotiation that is going on should not be the way. Okay, they want to invoke the no work, no pay rule. Have they ever thought of no pay, no work? Tell me any government, whether at the local level, state level, or federal government level, that does not owe an average Nigerian worker. Like today, in my own state, today is September 52 now. September 52. Should labor now go ahead and invoke the no pay, no work rule? As the government, in fact, you see, it is very surprising that somebody in the position of a federal minister and all of them come together. Maybe the learned fellows among them have not actually read in between the lines to tell them that they are towing a dangerous line. Have they ever thought of criminalizing non-payment of worker salary? Have they ever thought of telling the employer to pay arrears, salary arrears and pension with interest? At least when you owe, let the bank give you a facility. When you are returning it, you pay with interest. They have been owing 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, or even more. And when they will pay, they will just pay the principal. No interest. Look, there are issues they're supposed to address that they are not be addressing, and that's why the governors are growing wing, and they are unnecessarily becoming so important by day. I believe the Governor Forum now control everything in Nigeria. They control they control who goes to be president. They control who goes to the House of Assembly. At the Senate now, the Senate is now a chamber of former governors, and the governors, they are the same set of people that we say they cannot pay. We don't know whether our governors cannot read in between the lines. Labor is offering them a lifeline now. A lifeline, instead of saying you cannot pay, you cannot pay, you cannot. I don't think the way they think anyway. This is a lifeline for them to call the federal government to order and renegotiate the sharing formula. But the way is because they don't go to that office with the mind to perform. A lot of them, not every one of them anyway, a lot of them get to that office unprepared. And so we are not surprised. We are not surprised that they always sing negative songs. So, Nigerians, we are telling Nigerians, we are not so much bothered about the clause, the no work, no pay rule. We always do the needful. You are all aware how we force the government back to negotiation table.
Of some Nigerians, that says that the governor should be given the prerogative to decide how much their workers should be paid, rather than us just having a common or essential amount of figure.
A government that takes allocation from the federal government, and what they take is a matter of law, is statutory. Salary is a matter of law, is statutory. And from the statutory allocation, the first line of charge is what? Is salary and pension. Let them come and controver this. Let any one of them that have good advisor come out and controver this. So what we are saying is, instead of saying you cannot pay, you see, in majority of the states, they are so lazy that they cannot improve their IGR. They don't have the will, the political will, to collect taxes, to collect dues from whatever source they should collect, because they only think of election. Part of the responsibility, and it is a constitutional matter, and they swear to uphold the tenet of Nigerian constitution. is salary and pension payment. It's enough a grant for Labour to come together and institute impeachment move against all of them, whoever says they cannot pay. This is Nigeria of a new order. Okay, they said they cannot pay. Before they invoked the rule, the no work, no pay rule, they were fully represented, actively represented at the tripartite committee. They know that Labour came with a higher proposal. But the 30,000 naira that we are now shouting happened to be a compromise rate, a compromise figure. If the OPS, the organized private sector, can come up, in fact, we are challenging the organized private sector to speak up now. Let them just answer the question whether the 30,000 naira that we all agreed about is from the Labour, whether it is not a compromise figure, whether the governor representative were not part of the decision that agreed on that rate. And the federal minister, who happened to be a joint chairman, can now go and misinform a whole Federal Executive Council. Because what we believe was there was misinformation. Why are they shielding Mr. President from meeting with the Labour leaders? They know that if Mr. President can hear from the Labour leaders, all the junks they have been feeding him will come to naught. We are not so much bothered. The fact that a governor can say he cannot pay, that shows that governor unfit to hold that position. And if they don't resign, by his grace, all of them will be voted out come February 2019.
I'm afraid there's much as we can take from your end because of time. We've been speaking with the chairman of the Trade Union Congress in Oyo State, Olushola Okudiro. Many thanks for joining us on Galaxy today. All right, Chris, I have a question from one of our viewers. I think I should just throw it to you directly. It's from Engineer M.A. Adikule from Ede in Osun State. He says, what are labor unions doing to ensure, all right, if you want to be part of this conversation, just send us an SMS, don't call. What are labor unions doing to ensure that credible politicians are invited into the Labour Party to wrestle power in order to prove that workers can control the resources of the land?
Yes, that is why I am happy that he asked directly through the Labour Party, because a lot of people have been of the opinion that the trade union should not get involved in politics. But we will tell them it's naivety for you to say something like that. That every responsible trade union should be involved in the contestation for power, because it's in the corridors of power that the allocative principles are decided, are set, designed, and all those. Who gets what? That is where it is done. And you find out that in all the advanced societies, the trade union movement in those societies are actually participate directly, okay, in the contestation for power. And so we have decided that come to 2019, that the trade union movement is going to be actively involved in the politics, in determining who becomes what in this country. And we have mobilized our people, and we are telling them, in fact, we are about setting up a political commission that encompasses all the labor centers, okay, in Nigeria. And we're going to work actively to ensure that we put the right kind of people in power. Some comrades are already getting into the fray. You could see Comrade Issa Aremu, who is the General Secretary of Textile Workers Union, has already picked up a form in Kwara State. And there are many other comrades that are picking up forms left and right. Coming to the issue of the Labour Party. The Labour Party was hijacked by some gangs that were hitherto part of force, but unfortunately were taken over by political jobbers. And we have been trying to take back the Labour Party to ourselves. And that is why we have an impasse within the Labour Party for now. But I think in the next few months, probably in the next few weeks, not the next few months, that the situation in the Labour Party will be corrected. And once we're able to retrieve the Labour Party from the people that have hijacked it, then we will be able to use it to fuel the kind of candidates that are truly, truly representative of the working class in Nigeria. Not what we used to have. Politicians come in at the very last moment, they reject you in PDP or APC, you jump into the Labour Party, pick up one ticket from there, and all those use it and dump it at the end of the day. Now it's going to be different. But first of all, we have to rescue the Labour Party. We have to make it a truly Labour platform.
Sorry, Justin. Can I just ask this based on your response? Now, you're talking about unionists, going into politics. That's what we're talking about now. Based on the people we've seen go into politics from Labour, I think a quintessential example would be Adams Oshiomhole, who, by the way, didn't go through the Labour Party, went through the APC. Many people still are disgruntled with his leadership style while he was governor in Edo State. So is it right to just say, okay, if unionists go into politics, then Nigeria will become a haven, so to speak?
We are not exactly saying that, but the Comrade Excellency actually started with the Labour Party in Edo State. The Labour Party was his first platform, and because of his position in the Labour Party, other parties wooed him, and he accepted to work with them. But the fact is this, clearly, that when we have a truly functional and operational Labour Party, we would have principles, we have ideology, we will have a framework that will guide whosoever is a candidate of the Labour Party. That our principles will be his principle. And so when he gets into position of authority, even when he gets into office, he operates based on those frameworks that we have set for him. And that is why you found that Oshiomhole was not essentially guided by most of the principles of the labor movement. But it may interest you to know that Oshiomhole actually pegged his own minimum wage at 25. He was paying 25. Before all these, or before he left office, he was paying 25.
Right,
One of the few states that was able to do that because he has a trade union background.
We have questions from you, from our viewers. Let's just take them as we begin to round off. Please, I would like to know what the plan of Labour is concerning private teachers and their payment. Most graduates collect 15,000 naira. What is our fate, please? Lucky from Kaduna State.
That's a terrible thing. Like we talked about reach of the Minimum Wage Act. In this negotiation, one of the things we pressed for is the reach, because we know it's more important than even the figure. We want more people to be captured, more Nigerians to be protected under this act, so that those that are receiving, some people are even receiving 7,000. And when we say it is terrible, these are workers, and somebody will open his mouth and say they're unproductive. Somebody opens his mouth to say Nigerian workers are unproductive. And he receives 7,000 and still works, receives 15,000 and still teaches, molds the minds of young children. Those in the private institutions, there is a union that is being organized, I'm sure about that. If this worker would seek that children that is being organized to take care of private teachers in Nigeria, that would help a lot. I'm sure that once that union comes on stream, their issues will be discussed and will be taken care of at that level. Because we know that the government, those that occupy the corridors of power in Nigeria, are not protective of the interest of Nigerian workers. And so we have to hold the bull by the horn ourselves.
All right, send SMSs, the numbers displayed on the screen. You can also interact with us on social media using the hashtag Galaxy Today. We have this one from at Bashir Kagara. I believe in the capacity of NLC, TUC, and ULC. Please, no threat should make you back down. More powers to your elbows. All right, this one says, if you're looking for, okay, this is not related to what we are talking about. Okay, let me see. If you're looking for accommodation, now the first question the landlord asks is, what work do you do? If you mistakenly say you are a state worker, you are disqualified. This is because the possibility of paying rent after the first payment is not there. That is the condition workers are faced with today. Is there no role of the federal government in this? From Owoicho from Benue State. What do you say, Chris?
That is why we talk about, we engaged in housing, we engaged in transportation and all those. When we work with the federal government, especially the Federal Mortgage Bank, to see what could be done for all of us. Okay? I desire to own my own house. I don't have my own house. I desire to own something like that. Working with the federal government, we believe that we can provide cheap housing. It's a terrible thing. What Nigerian workers go through is terrible. In other advanced societies, not advanced, West African countries, once you are able to get into, once you're able to work, issue of housing is solved. By virtue of the fact that you work and you earn a salary somewhere, okay, access to housing becomes very easy. But in Nigeria, it's not the case. Look at the scenario you painted. That's the truth. Because they know that you can't pay after the first installment. Probably it took you like 3 years to gather the first installment. And then when that expires, the landlord knows that you're not going to pay the next one because you don't have the money. And we're asking that a minimum wage should be able to take care of that. Why should I be going to work when I cannot afford a decent housing? That's a terrible thing.
Chris, I said earlier that I'm not sure many Nigerians are on your side, not necessarily because they don't want increased wages, but because of the way and manner you go about in getting your demand. For example, Labour is planning to embark on yet another strike. And that's what many Nigerians are not pleased about because it's going to affect them. I remember the last time you even went on strike, it affected me personally. So it brings us to the question, is strike the only way you can get government to address your issues? Have you explored
strike is always the last option. You remember you said to yourself that this process started about 2 years ago. 2 years. You started talking to somebody. I personally have written up to 30 letters. Personally, me. Signed up to 30 letters to the Minister of Labour, to the President, to the National Assembly on this minimum wage issue. Remember that we continue on this part until they hike from 87 to 147, Abi? Okay? And then a 16-man technical committee was set up. One of the products of that 16-man technical committee was supposed to be this tripartite committee to review the national minimum wage. When after that work of the 16-man technical committee, it took them a whole lot of time for them to set up. We wrote letters again, threatened, before they now set it up, inaugurated it in November. And it took them another 4 months for that committee to meet. You set up inaugurated a committee, it took them about 4 or 5 months to meet. You had to take us another threat, writing of letters, reporting them to ILO before they started meeting. You understand? So it tells you that ab initio, the motive of this government, the motive of those at the corridor of power is not, is something else.
Okay, more comments. It's only absurd to keep Nigerian workers in dismay over minimum wage. Our political officers earn more than the laborers. APC government lacks administrative acumen. This one says, I thank God for federal government and other state workers. Here in the Borno state, workers are suffering the most. GLO 8 and 10 take 27,000 naira and 40,000 naira respectively. Worst of it all, since 6 years now, no local government staff receives salary based on GL. Example, I'm in GL 12, but I receive 40,000 naira meant for GL 10. May God help us in Ebonyi State from HM in Ebonyi State.
That's terrible. A lot of arbitrariness and impunity going on in Nigeria. And the Minister of Labour, that is supposed to protect Nigerian workers, that is supposed to ensure that the laws are obeyed, they are busy there sitting down and trying to look for ways to emasculate the trade union movement, to enslave Nigerian workers more. That is contrary in other societies.
All right. Good morning, sir. Please, the government should reduce the payment of senators, use the money to pay our workers. The senators are not helping us, please. Well, that's as much as we can take from comment. Chris, I just want you to just wrap this all up, in 30 seconds or a minute. Look, as it stands right now, are you guys looking at a full-fledged, industrial action in the coming days?
Should we stockpile? As you normally
This is going to be a nationwide strike as never before.
Wow.
We went on a warning strike. And just to force the government to come back to sit down and negotiate with us. We have had a whole lot of patience. Nigerian workers have borne the brunt. We are going on a full-fledged nationwide strike. And everybody is going to be involved this time around. The next Tuesday, we are going to embark on 1 day of national outrage and mourning by Nigerian workers across Nigeria. The 36 states of the Federation and the FCT will be involved simultaneously 1 day to sensitize Nigerians. And then on the 2nd of November, there will be a joint CWC, Central Working Committee meeting of all the industrial unions in Nigeria. The Trade Labour Center, TUC, ULC, and the NLC will meet for the first time in history. We are going to come together and take decisions. Then on the 6th of November, we will begin a nationwide strike.
Wow.
I just pray and hope that the federal government meets our demand before
that is very
Justin, does
that's
that
very
scare you?
That is very scary. With all that you've laid out, what we expect in the coming days and a week or so. All right, that's as much as we can take on the show today. We're looking at a minimum wage, unresolved labor issues, and in all the matters in between. I want to contribute to what you're saying, that the guys should back down for the government are weak. Okay, but the guys should not back down. The government is wicked. If they say they can be led, okay, I'm not understanding your thought. All right, our guest here in Lagos has been Chris Onyeka. He's the Deputy General Secretary, United Labour Congress.
And from Abuja, we're joined by Frank Tietie, who is the Executive Director of CASA. Then from Ibadan too, we're joined by Comrade Olushola Ogundiran, who is the TUC Chairman in that state.
Yes.
Thanks so much for joining us on the show today. The show will be back better and stronger. My name is Joseph Ako.
And I'm Justin Akadonye. Many thanks for being a part of Galaxy Today. Let the conversation flow on social media. Remember, the hashtag is Galaxy Today. Bye for now.